Well, we made it. Just avoided a big rain shower, but bought this out just in case. Well, the storm came and went, and as tends to be the case round here, it never gets really exciting, unfortunately. But, well, fortunately, I suppose I should say, not unfortunately. But anyway, come and gone. So, let's see how much devastation there is. It wasn't that bad, actually. It was more just rain. They go like, oh, high winds. It was breezy. I wouldn't even say it was windy. Does anyone else find that the people on the weather, like your weather forecasters on the TV, just tend to be over dramatic these days? Squirrel. See, even the squirrels out. They went out yesterday. It's a good sign. But yeah, I always think like the weather people are so over dramatic. It's like they're looking for extremes in the weather. It's quite often never as bad as what they say. Mind you, that said, infamously, the one time weather forecaster on the TV here in the UK downplayed a weather forecast. We got hit by a hurricane, which another squirrel. He's on his way. Yeah, we got hit by something approaching the levels of a hurricane, which was actually quite notorious as it starts to rain. Because what else does it do in this bloody hellhole? But yeah, so it's probably like the air on the side of caution now. It's just it's kind of funny. The one time they downplay it, the bloody country gets hit by, I don't know whether they categorised it in the end as a hurricane, but it was really bad. Really bad. And like, people died from trees falling on them and homes were wrecked. It was catastrophic. Oh. I hate this bloody weather. It drives me mad. It's neither one thing nor the other. Well, what I'm going to do, get to the end of here and I'll put my umbrella up, and then that'll make it stop raining. But at least it's not massively windy. We'll think of something to chat about today. When I get to the park, I've got a couple of things. I'm just not sure which one will prove to be the most interesting. At some point I want to talk about video game music, because there's been so many great tunes down the years, sort of going from the chip tunes, you know, from like the C64 that had some amazing music. Today it's just like real music. So we'll have a look. I'll dry the lens of the camera. It's actually stopped raining. We even get to put the umbrella up. See what I mean? It's absolutely on drugs, this weather. It's like, make your bastard mind up. Anyway, see you in the park. Alright. Moon. Well, you couldn't see that because your camera's got quite a wide lens on it, so trust me, moon is up there. M-O-O-N. That spells moon. If you know, you know, as they say. So, anyway. God damn it. Yeah, my finger's tangled in this thing. Video games. Which one should we go with? Should we talk about video game music? We'll do a little bit. It's not an exhaustive subject, really. We'll cover it. Some of my favourite tunes from down the years. And we'll cover it with some other stuff as well, because I'm aware it's not an exhaustive list. Now, I always divide video game music into two very distinct periods. You've got the 8-bit era, well, you could say the 8 and 16-bit era, really. What people tend to refer to as chip tunes, where the music in the game was coded into the game, and whichever, jiggery pokery they use, whatever fantastic coding or whatever, all of those numbers and stuff like that churn around and are processed by a sound chip that then delivers the sweet, sweet sounds to your ears. And on the C64, my machine of choice at the time, its sound chip was quite legendary. It was called the SID chip. I think Commodore liked to give little pet names to their chips. I think you had Agnes and Paula on the Amiga, with the old C64 sound chip. By the way, Agnes and Paula, I'm not specifically referring to sound chips with them, just to clarify. That was just a name given to the chips that did the various stuff on the Amiga. On the C64, the SID chip was specifically for its audio. That it took care of that, and that sort of transcended sound from beeps and boops to something very, very good. And some of the composers on the C64 were capable of getting some amazing sounds out of it. The C64 was also capable of producing sampled tunes, which sort of gave the, just get that bit of log out of the way. If someone stands on that, they could hurt themselves. Yeah, the C64, its SID chip, his sound creating capabilities at that time was second to none. It was only until the advent of the 16-bit systems that improved. But yeah, going back, C64 able to do sampled sounds. So you'd get speech. If you ever listen to the music from Turbo Outrun, you know, it sounded way beyond the capabilities of other 8-bit computers around at that time. The sample sound was truly incredible on the machine. It really took it to the next level. Commodore had a gem on its hands. And the C64 has still been used to do music sampling. Obviously, I'm not going to say commercially, because it's been long since surpassed. The Amiga surpassed it back in 1985. But it still created amazing sounds. That chip was remarkable. And chiptunes carried on. It carried on with the Amiga, the Atari ST, even the consoles, 16-bit consoles. They had chiptunes in them. But when you got to the generation of like the PlayStation, the Sega Saturn, the CD-ROM based generation, they could stream music directly off the disc as an audio track. So you could get licensed music. For example, if you play Wipeout on the PlayStation, the soundtrack is club music. I think the Chemical Brothers did a track on there. I'm not sure specifically. That kind of music wasn't really my scene, to be honest. But I know, like on Wipeout, 2097, they had the Prodigy. I did like the Prodigy, in fairness. Yeah, it wasn't a sample of the Prodigy. It was, because it was spooling directly off the disc. It wasn't sort of coded into it. Basically what is happening there is the game is telling the laser on the PlayStation to go to a certain sector on the DVD CD-ROM, so it was CD-ROM back then, and play that track. In some cases you could actually pop a PlayStation disc into a hi-fi, and in some cases, and you could play the tracks from there. It actually would have a track listing. So that was really what was happening. And so that's why I say these two specific differences. These days, with the advancements in technology, that music can be stored on a hard drive as a sound file. And when you're playing a game, it's kind of the same principle, I would imagine. I don't know 100% for sure, but I guess it's just playing from that sector on a hard drive. Some early PC games on CD-ROM, for example, Quake, what was interesting with that was the soundtrack, which was done by Nine Inch Nails, was entirely on the CD-ROM. Back then, if you didn't have the CD-ROM in, yes, you could play the game, but it would be just sound effects. There'd be no music. And interestingly enough, that was the case for the digital distribution of Quake for a number of years. There was no soundtrack because the license, referring back to yesterday, the license agreement meant that the audio, I think there was some sort of cock up with the licensing, and it meant the audio could not be installed onto the computer. Sound effects can, but the music couldn't. So therefore, if you didn't have the disc, you couldn't listen to the soundtrack, and the soundtrack to Quake is brilliant. So they fixed that. It's re-released that they did. They sorted that out. I don't even think Trent Reznor was aware of it. I don't think he was happy. I mean, he was a Doom fan, you know, as the story goes. And I think it was the record label were the ones that screwed that part of it up. But anyway, that has since been resolved. And now when you download and play Quake, you can do so in its full glory, legitimately. I mean, there were workarounds. You know, I don't know how legit they were. I'm going to guess they weren't legit. But there were workarounds where you could independently download and install the sound file in the Quake folder. But prior to its re-release, I mean, I got the upgrade because I did already have Quake on PC. I actually still have, well, I don't have the box anymore, I have the discs and the manual, but there was a big box bundle with Quake and its mission packs all on disc, and I have that. So I always had the soundtrack for Quake on the CD-ROM. Problem is, PCs don't come with a CD-ROM as standard these days, so I had to plug an external CD-ROM and then put the disc in to play the bloody music, which was a bit of a faff, to be perfectly honest. But these days you don't need to. So anyway, I mean, that's just a bit of a detour, but it shows you how things change musically down the years. You know, often, I mean, I wouldn't have recommended it, but often on the PlayStation, if you were playing a game, sometimes the game would have, on that particular level, would be dumped entirely into the memory on the PlayStation. And you could pop the disc lid open and it would stop spinning the disc. You could still play the game, but the soundtrack would stop or would start glitching. And again, that's because it was streaming it from the disc. So that's why I say there was two very distinct periods for me. Going into this third period, it's kind of a hybrid modern day. Because games are installing onto hard drives, it's not streaming the audio from the disc these days, because quite often there's no disc on PC. So it's kind of a hybrid system. But going back now, that's sort of an overview of how I categorize the audio era. Going back to the C64 days, of course, you couldn't stream the audio, even from cassette, because the cassette was loading the game. And on multi-loads, you had to stop the tape, reset the tape counter, and take it to a certain point. And that was how you played the game, you know, that's how the games worked. So obviously you couldn't stream from audio. However, there were a handful of instances where games did actually come with an audio tape that you could pop into a hi-fi and play the audio from a cassette to give you a superior soundtrack. Now, the initial release of Outrun had two tapes. One was audio and one was the data tape. And you could pop the audio tape into a hi-fi and you would get the soundtrack straight from the arcade, which was kind of cool. A bit cumbersome, but cool. Cumbersome, but cool. Oh dear. So, video games back then, some of the composers were absolute legends on the C64. Some of the most memorable bits of music in gaming came from that era for me. One of the great composers was Rob Hubbard, and he created a lot of very memorable soundtracks. Delta, a game that I kind of had a love-hate relationship with. What I do love is the soundtrack. Now I know that he actually based that soundtrack off another piece of music that I'm not even going to begin to try and pronounce. Oh, actually I will. Something like that. Anyway, it was based on that, but it was a bloody good version of it on a computer. He also did the Commando music, which he did in a very, very, very short period of time on the C64, and created a superb soundtrack. Not just the in-game music, but the high score table music was great as well. He also created music for Road Rash. I've already covered this a bit on the Mega Drive, and it was superb. One of my favourite pieces of music is the intro music to Road Rash. It's still stuck in my head, right? You know, all these years later. What an absolutely awesome tune that is. And then you've got Martin Galway, who was at Ocean Software. My God, he was amazing. He created some fantastic tunes. I remember playing Rambo, the Christmas I got my C64, and that was like a Commando clone, but it was a really good one. And he took the music straight from the film, and it sounded awesome. Now back then, you didn't always get the music from the film. Quite often, they would do an interpretation of it. But he did. Like, the pieces of music that are in that game are all lifted from the film. And of course, he had to compose it and do that on the C64. And it was amazing. You've got people like Tim Follin, I think that's how you say it. He did an amazing piece of music for Ghouls and Ghosts on the C64. That has got some amazing music in it. Rob Hubbard also did. Now, oh God, is it Auf Wiedersehen Monty or Monty on the Run? He did the music for that, and by God, that was great. What else? Now, there was a, dear God, I've got to be careful with this one. There's two guys that have similar names, but they're not the same composer. Yeah, it's two guys, similar sounding names, I suppose, but they're different. And I want to say Chris Hulsbeck, that did the music for the Turrican games on the C64, and I think on the Amiga as well. I think that's his name. I want to, if I've got it wrong, I apologise, but because there's another composer who has a similar name, but he's doing game music today. He's been doing this stuff for like Doom. I'm butchering these names here, and I apologise. But in any event, the Turrican music, especially Turrican 2 on the Amiga, that music is incredible. So good. You know, one of the other challenges, and I did discuss this briefly in one of my other videos, is that back then, those audio chips were only capable of having so many channels of sound, which also included the sound effects. So, for every time you put a bit of sound out there, that used a channel. So back in the day, you would often hear a drop out in the audio. The music might drop into the background. The game audio, in terms of the sound effects, might drop out. I imagine there was quite a fight between the guy who was doing the sound effects and the guy that was doing the music as to which took preeminence, or sorry, which was prioritised. If they were different people, of course. I mean, sometimes they would have been the same person. But if they were different people, I imagine that there was some interesting conversations going on, because obviously the composer doesn't want the audio dropping out on something that they've created. They don't want that. But yeah, just some great tunes. There was a lot of other composers as well. There's that many. You always know you're going to miss somebody out who did some great tunes. These are just the ones that are coming off the top of my head. I want to say Ben Dalglish as well. But yeah, there was an awful lot. There was some absolutely amazing tunes back then. And sometimes the great tunes weren't necessarily just the audio. Weren't just the more complex audio. Sometimes they were quite simple, but they were just catchy. I mean, the Ghostbusters theme on the C64 was quite, simple. It wasn't trying to do anything complex, but it was the Ray Parker Jr. Music from the film, and it was catchy. You'd get some which would take a classic piece of music and they were catchy. They stick in your mind. They're an earworm. Coming into the more modern era, my God, I mean, I don't agree with the idea that it's a cheat nowadays, because a lot of the audio is original audio. It's composed. It's almost like a film score in many respects. I don't think it's easier now. In fact, audio music in games, there's a huge amount of expectation. It's expected to be very theatrical. In your AAA games, I mean, there's been a lot of games that have had Hollywood composers doing the music for the game. I mean, your Star Wars stuff now, will quite often have audio, the John Williams music, in addition to its own original. I mean, he's not specifically programmed music for that game, but they've just taken the audio that's already been there. That's in the sound library, and they've put it into the game. Doom 2016's music was absolutely amazing. And now my old man brain's gone and forgotten. Mick Gordon, there we go. I was going to say forgotten his bloody name. No, Mick Gordon. Old man brain plugged in for a second there. Absolutely awesome. The BFG Division is one of the best pieces of music I've heard. And it's a real long piece as well. It's like over 9 minutes. And when it comes on in the game, when you're shooting everything, good grief, it's a belter. Look at that. This is what I mean by the weather. It's just been absolutely insane. Just look. It was raining about half an hour ago. I guess that's the clouds over there from the rain moving away. Good. But yeah, absolutely amazing piece of music. The Assassin's Creed games, love them or hate them, some of the music in that is amazing. Is it Jesper Kyd? Is that how you say his name? Especially Assassin's Creed 2. I think it's Venice Rooftops and Ezio's Family. I think they're the actual names of the pieces of music. Amazing music. Sticks with you. I think Major Nelson used to use the Venice Rooftops theme for his podcast intro back in the good old days. I actually bought that piece of music on iTunes. one of the very few things I've ever bought digitally, music-wise, because it was never... I mean, you probably could buy the CD of the whole album, but I just wanted that song. And it wasn't released on physical media. And I think it was like 79 pence back then on iTunes, so I thought, yeah, I'll have that. A lot of it's so good, and a good soundtrack in a game is very important to me. I think it can be, you know, it can transform certain moments of the game. It can, you know, help draw you into the environment. Like I say, if you took BFG Division out of Doom at that particular part of the game, when you're fighting the demons and stuff, it actually helps you fight. It's a really clever soundtrack, can deliver a rhythm for you to play the game that can actually be an assist for you. It's crazy to think, but it can, and you do get rhythm shooters. There's first-person shooters out there that are rhythm-based. There's dancing games, of course, that are rhythm-based, but yeah, there are first-person shooters, or shooters in general. There's Res. That's one of the best examples. It's a rhythm-based game. You shoot in time to the music. That's how you score points. It's excellent use of the soundtrack. Such a great game as well. I was bloody useless at it, but it's a great game. So, and then of course we've got Doom. The original Bobby Prince music is absolutely legendary. That's the sort of baseline for Doom. E1M1, that music, when that kicks in, that's Doom. However, as I've said before, much as I admire and love that soundtrack, the PlayStation music done by Aubrey Hodges, who also did the N64 version of Doom's music as well. Don't know about any others, but I know he did them too. That music is eerie, creepy, haunting, and I like that one the better out of the two. Now again, that's not me saying I don't like the Bobby Prince. I don't, I love it. As I've just explained, that is the Doom theme. But Aubrey Hodges suited the game at that time on the PlayStation. You see, the PlayStation version ran slower than the PC version, and the music is slower. It's more orchestral. It's slower paced. It's not like hard rock guitar music. So that slower pace, that slower rate works with the game, and it's slower pace. The more sort of thrash metal, hard rock works with the quicker pace that you got with the PC version. So quite often there is a design behind decisions to change the audio. It's not something that's just done on the fly. There quite often is some intelligence behind it. Sometimes there isn't, but sometimes there is. And when this industry does nail it, I like to call it out as being a job well done. Now, what else? Music, wow, there's just too many. Mass Effect, music is outstanding. Mass Effect Andromeda's music is amazing. The intro music to Mass Effect Andromeda is very thought-provoking and emotional. You've got a Crisis 2. I don't know if he did Crisis, but he did the music for Crisis 2 was Hans Zimmer. Big time composer. Great song, great tunes. So, music in games is, like with movies, it's very, very important. A good soundtrack can actually enhance your enjoyment of a game on an interactive basis. It can make you better at the game. So yeah, there we go. I've covered music in games. Now we're getting close to the 50th, and the 50th, as promised, I will be talking about Star Wars. Mushrooms! Mushrooms! Oh God. Hope there's no what the bloody hell are they called? Oh my God. You know, when I next see my doctor, I'm going to ask them, can they reinsert my brain that I clearly left at the hospital when I was in there. Ring wraiths. Jesus Christ. The Nazgul is ruined now. I was going to say, my God, I hope hope we don't come across any Nazgul on this path. There's a Lord of the Rings reference. Mushrooms. Yeah, okay. I know I could edit it out and save face, but at this point, we all know I'm on the arse. So I might as well leave it in, eh? So, what else can we talk about? As I just hit the camera with my umbrella. We've been going for a bit. A little bit more in the tank. Maybe another lap around. So I got the Power Pack DLC for Gran Turismo 7. Not what I thought it was going to be, if I'm brutally honest. I've not played enough of it, but at the moment, not the biggest fan of it, to be honest. First of all, you can't use your own cars in races, and you can't even select different cars for a race. You're given a car. Now, the only way you can get a different car is if you increase the difficulty of the race. And the races are a lot tougher. You're playing against like version 3 of this, I think it's called Sophie, which is this artificial intelligence that they've coded. Not a big fan of the AI and that AI. Some people like it, I'm not the biggest fan. One of the things that, whether they'll fix this or not, is there's no penalties for cutting corners or going off track like there is in the standard game mode. And I've had a couple of occasions where the AI has knocked me off the track. Now, there's no penalty apart from the fact that I lose places, and it's difficult to get them back. Now, I've won one race and finished like 3rd and 4th a few times. Finished 8th in one. That was the race one of the races where the AI just moved across and knocked me off track. The problem is, like I say, it's a lot tougher. And I was playing this on the, what supposedly is the easiest setting. Also, you get a full race weekend, but you can't change the number of laps. You can't change how long the practice session is. And you can't adjust the qualifying. It's all locked in. The endurance races, I think, are locked into this mode, so you have to unlock them by collecting enough stars. I just wanted to play the endurance race weekends. Apparently with the endurance racing, the save function is suspect. What happens in GTA 5, when they had the endurance races in that, what you could do, you'd pull into the pits and you could save the game, very similar to Le Mans Ultimate. And it would save the state of the game exactly where it was right then. So if you were, you know, say 10 seconds in the lead, when you come into the pits, that's where it would save you as. In this, the save is done out on track. And when you go back in, all the cars are bunched up. Everything's been reset. So it's not very realistic. Which for a game that professes to be a realistic simulator, no, that's fundamentally wrong. Also the fact that they were going for, they've been saying this as a genuine race weekend experience. No, it's not. I don't think it's been sold or marketed correctly, that's my opinion. If I'd have known that a lot of this was locked off, probably I thought twice about getting it, to be honest. Now, when you get it, you get 5 million credits when you buy the power pack add-on that you can obviously spend on cars, but it's also worth knowing that you have to pay a small fee to enter these races. Now you do get the money back, and you get a lot more money back if you're relatively successful in the race. But yeah, you have to pay. So I guess that was the theory behind the 5 million credits. But the rather strange thing is, if you buy the currency of 5 million credits separately, it's the same price as this DLC pack, which makes me think that essentially this DLC was free. Because you're not paying any more. If I buy 5 million credits, I'm paying exactly the same price as the DLC with the 5 million credits. So I think you're paying for the credits and the DLC is free. However, you can't just get the DLC without the credits. So this is a bit of a con, in all honesty. This is free DLC, essentially, that you have to pay for. But you're buying the credits as well. Do you see what I mean? It's a con. That's what it is. And when you're playing it, and it's not what you think it is, it's basically 50 races from what I can make out on the screen. You don't get to buy the cars in the spec that they are when you're racing them. it's just not what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was getting an endurance series that I could play from the main screen, a proper championship, a proper race weekends, and it's not. It's not. And I have to say I am disappointed with it. Somebody said that this is likely to be the direction that Gran Turismo 8 goes in. Well, then I won't be buying it. If that's how the future of the series is going to go, I'm not buying it. It feels tired, to be honest with you, Gran Turismo. It's been out for a few years now, and it feels tired. Racing games these days, they're not there. Gran Turismo 6, my God, I mean, I think that was like the pinnacle of the series. But it's just not there for me. It still feels very sterile. I don't really get any thrill or excitement from racing in it. The cars, I don't know. I much preferred Forza in recent years, and that's gone bye-byes with the pretty much the demise of Turn 10. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I just am disappointed with it. It's not what I thought it would be. I thought that for the money, there would have been more content. It's clear that the money you're spending is to buy 5 million in-game credits, which doesn't go very far, by the way. Especially if you're going to buy some of the higher series cars that you need to complete the cafe challenges. You're still going to have to grind away. Those 5 million credits can be gone in buying a couple of cars. So it's like £25 for a couple of cars, which is an absolute rip-off. I don't give a shit what sim racing fans might say. £25 for a couple of cars is an absolute rip-off. And the content that's there, I don't know, maybe once I'm into it more, it'll open up, but I doubt it. I had a look through the map screen where you unlock all of the stuff, and it just doesn't look inspiring. You can't change the number of laps. It's supposed to be a genuine race weekend. How many races do you ever see only last for 3 laps? How many? And it's not like the circuits are all the same length as the Nordenschleife. You spend more time, I'm not kidding you, I've spent more time in some of them qualifying than I have actually racing. And with them 3 laps, you've not got enough time to catch and pass. So if you don't get a good qualifier under your belt, basically your qualification session is 10 minutes. And I've had some races that are 3 laps, and the lap's like 1.5 minutes. So it's like 4.5 minutes. So, you know, the practice session's an hour, the qualifier's 10 minutes, and the race is 3-4 laps. And I know there's the endurance races, which would be a lot longer, but the point is, is this was marketed as a proper race weekend. And it's not. It's far from it. It feels, I'm not saying it is, it feels low effort. It feels like they just tagged this on. You can't use your own cars. You can't use your own tuning setup. And let's say like I did win with one of the cars. I didn't win a car. You just win stars, which you use then to open up other races, and some credits, which, yeah, you can put towards buying another car. But not that one that you've just raced in. You can't even see what the spec is or what the tuning setup is. Just feels tagged on. I'm not overly impressed by it. I say I'll play it some more, but I genuinely don't see much improvement with it. I am disappointed. I'm disappointed with Gran Turismo 7. I'm disappointed with Gran Turismo full stop, to be honest. Sesso Corsa's a tough game, particularly if you're not using a wheel. People will say, what are you using a wheel for? Why aren't you using a wheel? Because not everyone has the ability to set up a wheel. You know, it used to be that games were programmed for the controller as well as a wheel. So yeah, all in all, not very impressed. Like I say, maybe it'll open up and grow on me a bit, but I don't really think it will. I think it's poor. I think it's a poor add-on, and I think basically what it is buying 5 million credits. That's what the money's for, and the rest of it is what would have been, under normal circumstances, free DLC, and it's now been tagged on to this credits bundle, which is £25, and that's what I'm really not impressed by. Don't think enough people are calling that out and seeing that for what it really is. I don't think enough people are. Oh. I watched a couple of videos on it, and no one was really mentioning about the fact that the amount you pay for this power pack is the same as what it is to buy the 5 million credits. Nobody's saying that, and I'm like, it's right there. They're actually next to each other in the store. How are you not seeing it? And how are you not talking about it? I think it's worth mentioning. And it's not added value. It's not added value. Because, to my mind, the 5 million credits, which by the way, cost the dev team nothing to make, because that's already in the game and has been for a long time, that's being used as a mechanic, I think, to trick you into buying this power pack, thinking you're getting more content and thinking that the 5 million credits is the added value, when it's the other way around. Some people are excited by it, I'm just not seeing it. I was really disappointed last night when I sat down to play it. Very, very disappointed. You've got this, I don't know if she's supposed to be some kind of race engineer. Before every qualifier, every practice session, every race, pops up and says the same thing. So you have to keep pressing the button to skip it. It's like, yeah, I know what a qualifying session is. Why do you have to tell me every damn time? I've not figured a way of switching her off. But she's doing me head in. It's like, yeah, I know what a practice session is. I know what a qualifying session is. And I sure as hell know what the very truncated, brief sample of an actual race is. And the one thing I will absolutely say is, it ain't nothing like a proper race weekend that we were told that it was. It's just a damn shame you can't do refunds on the PS5, because I'd have been very tempted to go for a refund, to be honest with you. I guess if they say this is where they reckon GTA 8 is going to, GT8 is going to go, I won't be buying it. I won't be buying it. The series for me has fallen off quite a lot since the GT5 in 6 days. They were sort of the pinnacle, both in terms of content, in terms of racing. Nowadays, they just don't feel anywhere near where it should. As I say, I'll give it more time, see what happens, but from what I've played of it so far, after a couple of hours with it, not impressed. Not impressed at all. So anyway, that'll do for today. I've been going for nearly an hour. And if Clipchamp takes as long to import this as it did yesterday, this will be up this evening. So, catch you guys later. Thank you for watching.